On today's Moving the Chains, Jarrell, a recurring guest, a friend of the program, new head coach at Westwood, Stephen Burris.
Yeah, another coach that we've been fortunate to have on a couple times here. Obviously getting another job, so that means that he's moving and shaking in his career. So really excited to catch up with him and see what he's got going on and how he's looking to build this Westwood program after a really great tenure there at Lamar.
A really fun interview, a guy that's had a lot of success. Hope you guys enjoy it. Once again, Stephen Burris, new head coach of the Westwood Redhawks, here on Moving the Chains.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin The Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com today.
Welcome into Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Drell Hendricks. Got a great interview today, a very special guest, a friend of the program, a recurring guest now. That's the new head coach of the Westwood Redhawks, Stephen Burris. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. You guys have been killing it. I think this is, year 4 now?
I think so, man. And we appreciate your time, man. You've been great to us. So glad to have you back on the show. If this is you guys' first time tuning in, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter/X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains, our website, movinchains.com, and our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and all other podcast platforms. Coach Burris was hired in March. He was the head coach at Lamar for the past 2 seasons, going 18-8. Prior, he spent time at Ridgeview, Conway, Socastee, York, and Norwich Free Academy in Connecticut. Coach, let's start there. What's that transition been like, getting out of Lamar, becoming the head man over here at Westwood now?
It took a little bit longer than I probably would have wanted it to take. I was hired, like I said, in March. I didn't actually get into the building until mid-April. So that took some time. But the admin at Lamar were very, very good in helping me do everything I need to do to get started at Westwood, and also to just kind of make sure that everything in Lamar is going to be left in good shape. I'm so very grateful to Mr. Leonard, who's the principal at Lamar, and my athletic director, Carlos Burgess, at Lamar, and then my admin over at Westwood at the same time, just communicating with districts and all the red tape that we got to go through. But I was able to get in shortly after, I think, spring break, and hiring coaches and getting to know the kids and setting up spring practice. We had about 6 weeks by the time, I was hired to kind of get some stuff going. And we got that stuff going and, just been hitting the ground running, man. And it's been fun. I'm enjoying it so far.
Like Coach, we mentioned, we've had you on before and you've given us your background and we've been very intently, especially following you the last 2 years at Lamar. But if you don't mind, going through your background for us, especially those Westwood fans who want an introduction to you, your experience as a coach, as a player, and then, but specifically, like what you were able to accomplish those first 2 years at Lamar.
Oh man, as a player, ain't a lot to talk about. I was a little receiver, about 5'9", 5'10", high school, probably 150 pounds soaking wet. I thought I was pretty good. I didn't realize how freakishly athletic all of these guys are that we see playing on Saturdays until I got to college. So my career ended there. But I knew I wanted to coach. So I was a PE major down at Coastal Carolina. Go Giants. Took a hard one yesterday in the baseball championship, but it's all good. So I went down to Coastal, enjoyed myself there, graduated, and I jumped right in. Like I said, worked down in Horry County for about 10 years at 2 different schools for 2 Hall of Fame guys. They really kind of molded me as who I wanted to be as a coach. Tim Renfro really poured a lot into me over the years and continues to do so. I'm entering year 19 now, and I look to him for so much advice to this day. I texted him last week. Just little organizational things that, I was able to pick up from him. But, my coaching experience, at Lamar, man, it's such a special place. And coming from a big school setting that I'd always been in, I really wasn't sure what to expect at Lamar. Obviously the high expectations of everyone there. We won 18 games, we won a region championship, but that's just kind of like it's Tuesday in Lamar. You go to the third round of playoffs, you're like, cool. So let's win a state championship next year. And I was perfectly okay with that. Like, I really enjoyed working with those kids and working in that community and getting to know a lot of those people out there. It's a great football community, a great football town. They really embrace everything that high school has. It doesn't matter what club it is or, what the kids have going on. They want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of you and get to know you. So I was able to kind of develop some skills away from football that I think are going to help me at Westwood as far as just being a part of the community. Obviously driving from Columbia to Lamar, that presents some challenges that now I won't have. I'm 15 minutes from the school where I sit right now. So that's been a big convenience. And just, the changes, obviously having more kids, not having to teach both sides of the ball to the same kid, or three sides of the ball, if you want to call it things the third side. That's been a lot different. Having more coaches. I think we have 18 assistants right now. And I'm very pleased with our staff that we have. So, our parents can rest assured that, we're going to get some work done, and we're laying a foundation right now that I think we can be proud of, and we'll continue doing that throughout the summer.
Let's talk about that staff, Coach. It's always a key is kind of getting that set up. Were you able to retain some guys or bring in a lot of new guys, and are you fully set there? Or are you trying to get a few more pieces moved into the school there?
I think we're set. I'm going to be able to get 7 guys in the building, which is a huge tip of the cap to my administration. Ms. Tamika Nicholson's our principal. Our APIs, Ms. Kimberly Jeter, my athletic director, Garrett Knight, have done a great job. If I send them a name, obviously I can't control who's going to be hired, but I tell every guy that I talk to, every coach, like, you got to understand you're a teacher first. And so I wanted to make sure that I was giving them good teachers that could also help from the 8 to 4 o'clock deal. And then when they get out to the football field, obviously do that portion of the job. But I retained 3 guys. My defense coordinator, Dave Thomas, he's got a whole truckload of experience. I think he told me he's like year 32 now or something like that. So he's been doing it for a long time. He's seen a lot of football, worked with a lot of great coaches. And then I have 2 young guys that I also kept, Kendrell Flowers and Raekwon Heath. They coach my running backs and receivers respectively. So everyone else, the other 16 of us are new faces. And it's our first year. I haven't worked with anyone except 2 coaches on staff. So, the spring and into the summer has been that time where we're kind of getting to know each other, which has been good so far, just spending that time. And in the summer specifically, when we don't have the school day to be concerned about, to just get to know each other and how we move and shake. But 5 of my assistants have been head coaches before. So that portion of it has helped me tremendously as far as just taking things off of my table, or, jumping in front of a bullet I might not see coming because they've been there and done that. So I'm really enjoying it right now.
So, Coach, X's and O's are a big part of this and scheme, especially this part of the season, the off season. What should we expect from Westwood, on the offensive side of the ball? And then what should we expect out of Coach Thomas's defense over on that side?
So offensively, we have 2 very, very talented running backs. Angelo Rios will be a junior this year. I believe in the game last year, I want to say it was against Lugoff Elgin. He had like 300 yards rushing at 275, something like that. Some crazy stat. He's very hard to tackle in open space. Not a very big guy. I think Angelo might be 5'6", 5'7", 150, 160 pounds, be strong, very balanced. So, we're going to feed him and let him run the ball. We have another kid, Jovan Howard, who's a rising sophomore. 2 very, very good, talented, hard-running, hard-nosed, physical kids. We're going to rely on them to kind of carry the load. Our quarterback will be a 3-year starter, Carrington Carter. He's done a very good job just kind of learning what we're expecting out of him as a quarterback and a leader of the offense. Our offensive line returns some guys, 3 guys up front. And we have a nice group of tight ends I'm really excited about as well. So, we're coming along. I think obviously you got to be able to run the ball, like I said, and we'll get into that and we'll put some things in. Carrington's athletic enough. We'll get him on the move and do some things with him to take advantage of his athleticism. But, defensively, Coach Thomas, he's an odd front guy. He's running 3-4 and, to stop the run. If you go back and you're able to look at any of the film from last year, they did a pretty good job. Some of the scores football is one of those things you kind of got to dig but beyond the stats and see what the story of the game is, whether it's turnovers or just, maybe one misstep here and a momentum shifted and boom. But they did a really good job, and I really, really wanted to keep him on board so it was less that the kids had to learn with all the transition happening. So, we're going to keep that 3-4 going. But, he's multiple. He's able to get into whatever fronts need to get into. Our region's kind of a little black and blue. Teams are going to run the ball at you. And, Blythewood does a good job of throwing. And, so we got to be versatile enough to, play Blythewood 1 week where they're empty and then go and see Sumter and they got 2 tight ends on the field and, they're split backs, whatever they're in, they're running the option at you. So we're looking forward to those challenges. But the kids so far have done a really good job.
I think Angelo may have actually been our player of the week, that Lugoff game where he had that huge number. So I remember that one. Remember that one pretty well. But Coach, you've been around some great coaches throughout your tenure, all across the state here. And who are some guys that have really kind of molded you into the coach you are now? And then also I always like to ask, are there any guys at the college or pro level you like to watch now to pick up kind of X and O stuff from as well?
On a high school level, I got to start with Coach Wallace, my high school coach at Northwestern. He is someone, I think right now he's probably entering like year 50 something, who knows. But if you go to any coach's clinic, we got the clinic in Greenville coming up next month. He'll be there. He'll be sitting front row center. And he's taking notes like he's about to go out in his year 1. So just that desire to learn and continue learning, to network, and he's never too busy to pick up the phone and, give you some advice. So I take a lot from Coach Wallace and how he ran his program. He always took care of us as players. So I try to do a lot of that. The professional, not professional, but the college level, there's so many guys that are doing such a great job. I love football as a whole. I've become a big fan of what Coach Smart does at Georgia and just his kind of maniacal approach to all of the details. Like every little thing matters. And, we got to go down to Georgia a couple years ago and I was working at Ridgeview, and he is exactly what he shows on TV. And, their 7-on-7 was so organized that it spoke volumes about what they're being able to do since he got there. And, Coach Beamer, right down the road here in town, we've got access. They have an open door policy. So, he's done a good job of welcoming coaches on campus and just, trying to form some relationships with coaches that are within driving distance here. He's got some excitement going. So just the cultural parts, not so much scheme for me is, how are you operating your program? How are you maybe turning the tide and getting people excited about what you're doing and getting kids that want to play for you and play hard for you? I think, scheme-wise, you can take from about anybody at this point. You get on YouTube and find film from everywhere. So, we do a little bit of that, but I'm very big into like the philosophy and the leadership approaches and how guys organize what they're doing and get kids motivated to go and play.
Coach, usually with these type of jobs opening up, there's a transition for sure, especially in how you're going to coach. A lot of the times it's either you're leaving a program that's had a ton of success, you're coming from a program that's had a ton of success and you're just meeting those expectations, or you're taking a job where like you kind of are a program builder. And I feel like this is more so like a, kind of like rebuilding this program. What's been the biggest adjustment, or what's the biggest thing that you've identified, in taking this job to where you've like, hey, we need to tweak this thing and kind of make it my culture in my program?
I think if you were to ask my kids at Lamar, they would tell you that I'm a stickler for like everything, to a point where I probably get on their nerves, but they started to understand if nothing matters, then nothing matters. If everything matters, then everything matters. So we developed the saying there, it costs what it costs. And I was completely okay, be careful who you tell what your goals and aspirations are, because they might hold you accountable to those things. So, first meeting with the kids at Westwood, like, what do we want to be? And, we went through, and some kids say, I want to play on the college level, or I have this dream or that dream. All right, cool. Well, here's what it's going to take to get there. So we have a 7:15 a.m. check-in. If you're here at 7:15, you're late. And, it took a couple times, but they started to figure out, like, there's going to be immediate consequences. So I just think laying that foundation of being on time and how to move, where to move, when to be, where to be, and what to do when I get there. If we could do all of those things, I'm a full believer that the football portion takes care of itself. So just building a level of accountability, a responsibility, and just ownership is one thing that I'm really trying to be first and foremost. That's what we're going to be built on. And, say the TPW, tough people win, but I think tough people have to learn how to show up on time. Tough people have to learn how to do the things they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do them, regardless of how they feel about it. And, we spent a lot of time talking about the lessons that football teaches a young man. And I really feel like in some ways it's the last frontier of like just the hard things that's in the world right now. Everything's kind of, we don't want to hurt anybody here, hurt anybody there, but like football doesn't care about your feelings. So you got to be able to put that to the side and go and get the job done. And, our kids are doing a good job right now of accepting those challenges. And some days I know they probably think I'm crazy, little ball guy out there running around and doing things that we're doing. But I think they see a method to the madness so far. So they're responding.
Coach, I wanted to ask you, you're coming from Lamar, a 1A school, to a much bigger program now at Westwood. You kind of hinted on it earlier about having to coach both sides of the ball and kind of teach some guys different things. How do you go about scheduling your practice differently and the way that you coach things? Because this is obviously a big jump in just the number of kids you got out there now.
Right. So the thing about it, for me, at least, the biggest transition for me was going from a big school to Lamar, because I had only coached in bigger settings. Sagastoo was a small school, and at the time, I think we were 3A when I was there. We had like 1,200 kids. The school, even in Connecticut, we had 2,600 kids. We had 120 football players. So figuring out, how to take that 2-hour practice schedule that maybe as a coordinator, it was all offense for me. And I had those receivers, and, you get to a point in practice almost where it's like, man, we're kind of done. Like, what else can we do? Now, every second, not that it didn't matter before, but there's so much more weight on the time that you have in the 1A setting, because you can't practice for 3.5 hours. Like, you're just not going to be able to do it. So learning how to be as efficient as possible. And, so now that hour at Lamar, take what I want to be offensively and kind of just boil it down to the nuts and bolts. And what can we get really, really good at? And maybe I got to put some of this other stuff to the side that, may not fit our personnel or the skill level of the kids that we have, or maybe it's just too much given the fact that they have to go and play defense also. Now that I'm at Westwood, we got 6 or 7 quarterbacks alone. At Lamar, I had 2, and the backup was my best receiver. So he maybe only got his reps. He got reps all summer. Then when we started the season, he had to learn how to play receiver, and he was our DB, one of our corners, and he's our return guy, and he was the holder on PAT. Like, he did everything. But now we have just the personnel and the depth to be able to do some more things. So practice, in a sense, has become a little easier to organize because, I have all the coaches, obviously, and, we can kind of split up, and kids are getting a lot more eyes on them. So, just today, like, we're running a circuit, and I've got 2 coaches at each station, and, there's nowhere to hide for a kid. And, we're able to practice a little bit faster because the kids are hearing things. So we'll practice, we'll go watch the film, we'll lift weights. And so we're able to use that time a lot more because we don't have to split it in half. So that's been welcomed. But the transition back to a 5A or a bigger school setting has been a lot easier than going down and having to kind of revamp some things for me.
Coach mentioned you were hired in March, so right before spring ball gets started, and that's one of my favorite times. Even, it's a little bit easier at a bigger school because you don't have to worry about so many kids playing multiple sports. Like at Lamar, I'm sure you had half your team playing baseball or something, or track or something like that. But what were you able to learn about your team in the spring, as you went into this off-season summer period?
I'm going to give a lot of credit to Coach O'Connell because these kids really do not mind working at all. And that's something that I know we worked together for a year when I was at Ridgeview, and that's something that he really instilled in them. He was there for 3 years, so these seniors were freshmen when he started. So, a big shout out to him, because we have not had to fight anyone about much of anything at all in terms of, hey, get every rep in the weight room, be here at this time and do this. And they're all yes sir, no sir type of kids. So I cannot complain for a second about that. What was the other part of your question, Jarrell?
Mainly just asking what you were able to learn in the spring, like getting into spring ball.
Yeah. They just have a very big desire to do more. They've won 10 games in the last 3 years. They won 6-6 last year, won a playoff game, which is big. I think it was the first playoff win since like maybe 2019 or so, somewhere in there. So, there's some momentum going for sure. And I think having a taste of that playoff success, getting a playoff win can do a lot for a program. So, the challenge, the goal is not to just make the playoffs. The goal is not to have a winning season. The goal is to be playing into November and, make it as long as you can and focusing on the process that it's going to take. Because as, you guys know, as you get deeper and deeper into the playoffs, you're talking about a game where 1 or 2 plays is the difference between you going home and taking up equipment or you advance to the next round. And sometimes you just got to be lucky. And I tell them all the time, luck favors a team that just plays hard sometimes. So play hard and, practice hard. And we're really, really intent on making sure they understand the why behind what we're doing. So we've got a lot of kids that are curious, but they're learning. Like I cannot, like I said, when we're in meetings, everybody brought a pen and a pencil, and a piece of paper. I didn't have to tell them that. So, that's something that I was able to step into and we were able to hit the ball or hit the ground running. And it's been really good so far.
Coach, you mentioned a couple guys earlier, your quarterback, Carrington Carter, Angelo Rios and whatnot, but who are some other players you've identified that maybe some stars that we should be on the lookout for this fall?
Yeah, we have a defensive lineman, DJ Jones. He plays defensive tackle, high motor guy. You know when he's at practice because he's going to make a play. He's going to let you know about it, which I love about him. Zion Oliver is a guy in our secondary, extremely athletic, kind of flying under the radar right now. I think he'll be able to play somewhere on Saturdays next year. Really looking forward to what he's going to do for us. We got some track guys that had a really good spring. Our 4x1 team won the state championship, and we've got 2 guys off of that team that are playing receiver for us. CJ Bennett is one, and Miles Bryant is another. Looking forward to seeing if we could develop them a little bit and, maybe take the top off some defense and spread the ball around in the pass game. And then up front, on our offensive line, Jeremiah Whitmore, big kid. He's, 6'2", 265, 270 pounds. He's a strong kid. He's probably the strongest kid in our program right now. And, he doesn't say a lot, but he has a good time. He's always smiling. And, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he can kind of lead our offensive line and what they're going to do up front as well.
So, Coach, we're catching you end of June, so we've been in the heart of the 7-on-7 circuit, and we caught up with you a little bit, off air before we got started here, and you guys have been really going after it. How has that 7-on-7 circuit been for you guys, as you're going through your team building period? And I want to ask you about 11-on-11. That's a thing that got implemented in state a couple years ago. Are you a fan of that, or have you participated yet?
7-on-7 wise, we've gone with a few schools. We opened up with Irmo, and Coach Brand brought his crew down, and we got some really good work in with them. And I really like going in a one-on-one setting with another school where it's not so much about winning a 7-on-7 game, but it's just about the work. So, Coach Brand brought his crew in, and he's coaching on the fly, and we got to see what a championship caliber program looks like early in the summer. I think it was a very good experience for our team, and they're going to be very good this year. So, Coach Brand, you go ahead and handle your business. But we do the tournaments, and the tournaments are fine because the emphasis for us is just compete. We're still learning scheme and learning techniques and how to go through reads and all those things that come with, just some execution. We're going to lack a little bit right now at this point in the year. But, we film everything. So the fact that we can film it and we can look at it and we can make those corrections, it's really helped kind of expedite our learning curve a little bit and speed up that process a little bit. But the 11-on-11 stuff, we do have 2 coming up in July. I love it. I'm a fan of it when it's done the right way. So when I was at Ridgeview, I was very fortunate to, I think we used to go with West Florence when Coach Generate was there. He and Coach Howard had been in the same region when Coach Howard was at Wilson. So they had a relationship, and he brought them in, and we really did a whole practice. And I really like the setup because now your ones can get a better look against another team's ones, and we're able to teach and compete, but it's in a controlled environment. I do see some of the things, offensive, defensive linemen, that could be a bit of an issue. You see some of these camps where it's just getting out of control with the holding and all this other stuff going on with DBs and pressing and all of that stuff. But I think if you do it the right way, it's something that's a great tool because you can go through your run game, you can work through your fits and all these other things, and you can still control, like I said, control what's happening in that drill. You can teach and walk through, and I think our kids get a lot out of it because they don't have to go against the same guy that they've been seeing since May 1st or since January when they started lifting weights. So I think done right and done appropriately is a very good tool for us. So I'm really pleased with that rule being approved.
Coach, when the Westwood job came open, you kind of looked into it. What really stood out to you and kind of intrigued you about the program there?
I think, anywhere that you go as a coach, you want to make sure that this kind of has some success. Is there somewhere that you can win? And when they first opened the doors, Westwood had a lot of success. Coach Summers came in and did a good job with them. They've had, I think, 3 guys make it to the NFL in like a 9 or 10 year span. So obviously we all want to be somewhere where there's some talent, where there's some resources, where you got good administration. And, I was familiar with some of that. My wife was a teacher at Westwood. So, I kind of gotten to know some of the people that were in the building already. And I always think Richland, too, has a lot of talent in the district. If you look across the board athletically, whether it's track or basketball, baseball even, these teams in this district always do a good job of competing on the state level. So, I felt like the bones were there. Facilities are always a thing, and just the ability to get coaches in the building. So when I sat down with admin, I kind of told them what my plan would be and what it would look like, and they were open to those ideas and some things that maybe I wanted to do at Lamar, but we just didn't have the manpower to get it done. Like I said, Ms. Nicholson jumped on board, and so she really made me feel confident and secure because, leaving Lamar is a thing. I was not looking to leave at that time, but when the right place opens and it's 15 minutes from your house and you have to drive 55 minutes, Westwood made sense for me and the things that I needed personally.
Coach, one of my favorite things that we do here at MTC is me and Kevin, John, planning to go on road trips and check out these places. Get in the truck or Jeep on Friday and get into these communities to getting to meet the people. And so, how has that community, kind of embraced you as a new coach, your family coming to the area, and what you're wanting to do, with this program?
It's been great so far. I've got a top-notch group of parents working with our booster club. I was able to meet with them within 2 or 3 weeks of being hired and kind of just lay out my plan and kind of what I wanted to do and get some concerns out in the air of what, maybe they had questions about and how we were going to approach these different things. But they've been phenomenal so far. We've got a lot of sponsors that are involved with athletics. So, Coach Knight, Dr. Knight, he's got a PhD. He does a good job of kind of introducing me to some people. And so far it's been, everyone has been receptive of the ideas and the excitement. At our spring game, we had a lot of parents just come by and just hang around and just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that they're seeing. So, the excitement is there for sure. And I think anytime there's a new staff coming in, you can kind of get some of that. Westwood's had, I think I'm the 5th head coach now. So it's been a lot of turnover in a 16-year span. So, it's a place where I'm not looking to leave anytime soon. I've got 2 young kids and they'll be in 1st grade and kindergarten next year. And, I like to stay here and stay put because moving is not a deal that is very fun. So I'm looking to stay put and, really put some roots down and grow this thing and build it the right way.
Coach, you're obviously still, a young guy. You're still young in your career. Only, 2 years as the head coach up until now. I guess 2 years at Lamar up until now. But how much more, prepared did you feel, I guess, when you came in and took this job than when you did maybe a Lamar job 2 years ago? Now that you've got some more experience under your belt.
Yeah, it's funny because I just turned 40 last week, so I'm
happy belated, by the way.
I appreciate it. I'm kind of old enough to not be the young coach anymore, but I'm not young enough to be I'm not young to be old or old to be young. You know what I mean? I'm kind of in that gray space right now. I'm entering year 19, and I think the fact that I took my time pursuing a head coaching job definitely benefited me in some ways that, I've had some friends that jumped in when they were 28 years old and I was just not ready. And I had some friends that jumped in and maybe took some jobs that maybe they shouldn't have taken and it didn't work out for them. So I think, being very deliberate about my path helped set me up. Obviously going to Lamar, I mean, what else needs to be said? Like come in there and, get the bus to the stadium and you can probably be all right most nights. But, I couldn't have started at a better place. Just getting my feet wet there, it definitely helped me. And I think I learned more about the off the field stuff being at Lamar, community involvement, just organizational processes and things like that, just to help make the day go a little bit smoother, and delegation when I could delegate, and some things that I had to do because there was only 5 assistant coaches, go get it done. So I was definitely more prepared for a bigger job than maybe I would have been if I had just gone straight from Ridgeview to another 4 or 5 A job. So, I think I'm a patient person. My players probably disagree, but the job process and getting some no's when I thought they should have been yeses and landing where I did land has helped me develop that patience. And so, now that I'm where I want to be for a while, and having the experiences that I've had and the contacts and networks, it definitely has helped me hope build a foundation that will allow us to continue to be successful.
Everyday life means everyday expenses. Spend smarter with a Founders Federal Credit Union credit card, offering you low rates and big rewards where it matters most. Enjoy all the benefits of saving while using your Founders Essential MasterCard. Make every swipe and tap count with smart rates, big rewards on select cards, and no balance transfer or annual fees. Because your money should go where you want it to. That's the power of Founders Federal Credit Union. Apply today at foundersfcu.com. Relax. You're with Founders.
Coach, a couple of easier ones before I let you go tonight. Love hearing this answer always because you get a wide variety, it feels like, man. So maybe on the bus to an away game, at your office for a home game, what's on your playlist as you get ready to head of the field?
Oh, man. So I am not into the new stuff. I try. I do try. And I'll give it a go sometimes, like some little baby, NBA young boy, I'll try. But, I'm going back to the early 2000s. And I'm listening to the Down South Georgia boys and Pastor Troy, and I got a little John and the East Side boys going, some Jada Kiss, the Locks. Like I'm listening to Dipset, like all that early 2000s when hip hop was hip hop. I'm there, and I can't get into what the kids listen. I try, and ooh. It's tough.
Don't explain yourself, Coach. I mean, I'm still myself. I'm in that trap era, crunk era, New York. So yeah, I'm right there with you. So yeah, I understand how it goes. But Coach, you know this one's coming. Put you on the hot seat. You've been on the show before. Kevin and I gotta ask a food question. We're heading down to that Blythewood area. You're only 15 minutes away, so you have no excuse. What's a restaurants that we should check out down in the area?
All right, I got y'all. I did some work. Okay. So you're going to spend the weekend here. So that means you come and watch us play on Friday.
Okay.
And then y'all can go and watch, I know you're a Clemson fan, but you can go and watch South Carolina play. All right. So you come to us and you're going to go to Scotty's.
Okay.
Scotty's is right down the street from the school. They've got American, Greek, and they do pizza. They're a big supporter of athletics for us. And he does a good job. Now you can also go. There's a China Garden. They have really good wings. It's on Sparkleberry. So it's going toward the Spring Valley area. Then you got to get up the next morning. You're gonna go. And I had this place the other day. Divine Cinnamon Roll Deli. Y'all look them up because it is top notch breakfast. And then you go downtown, you get you a little dinner, and it's at Blue Marlin. They've got it all. They got some seafood. They do like a low country boil, and so those are 4 places I can give you right there. It'll take care of you.
I'm doing a PSA. I'm stopping the show right here. Anybody that's listening, any other coach or anybody that joins here, this is the type of research that I plan on having from here on out. I've been to Blue Marlin before. It's fantastic.
There you go.
I love sweets. You check that box. I love some Greek Italian food as well. And those are all in it. That's another thing. The Chinese food, Chinese restaurant, fried chicken wings. That's a slept on gem. You got to be a real vet to know that stuff. So I appreciate you.
That's
right.
And
I was going to say, Coach, when you were at Lamar, we loved watching the videos. You guys grilling out for the boys. You're going to have to keep that going at Westwood too, man. Can we swing by the practice and grab something?
So my defensive coordinator at Lamar, his name is Jason Myers. Y'all give him a follow on Instagram, Coach Chef.
Doing it now.
He is top notch. So I am trying to get him to come and do some stuff for us, but he's still coaching. So, I'm going to have to wrestle him away when I can because he is a top notch. He does a great job. So that was one thing at Lamar when we got into the playoffs. We had steaks every Thursday. So, that's the thing. And, I didn't have to ask for it. It just it happened. And that community, again, does a good job. So that's something I'm going to try to keep going at Westwood. We got to find some money to buy some steaks, but we'll get that done for sure, man. Because if one thing's for sure, kids will eat. And so we'll feed them and we'll have some fun with that for sure.
That's right, man. Well, last one for you, Coach. I know it's still a little bit early, but what are some goals you guys have set for the 2025 season for the Westwood Redhawks?
It's going to sound cliche, but our goal every day is to just get better. And, find one thing to get better at. It doesn't matter what it is at this point. So, don't make the same mistake twice. If we can do that, we'll be okay. And just absolutely go as hard as you can possibly go. And, we're doing a good job where, stacking days one after the other. Because, in our region, you got to go down the road and you got to play Sumter, who is a state powerhouse. Coach Howard at Ridgeway's doing a good job. They're always in the mix every year. Blackpool is always in the mix every year. Lugoff, new coach now, but, they had a lot of success last year. They're building up, and West Florence, a new coach as well, but state championship coach pedigree. So there's no off week, so to speak. We got to be ready to roll. So taking that approach and just focusing on the processes that are involved and getting better every day, enjoying that process is kind of what we're all about. And I'm a firm believer if you handle the little things, those big things, they take care of themselves.
Well, this has been great. I want everyone to go follow Coach Burris and the Westwood program on social media. They do a great job posting updates on their kids and their program. Certainly check them out on there. Like I mentioned, follow us on all social media, our podcast on all podcast platforms, and our website, movingchains.com. Moving the Chains is brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Jarrell, anything else for Coach before them go today?
Well, Coach Burris, we just want to thank you for your time. Especially this part of the year is just a lot of stress going on as you guys prepare for the season. So we certainly do appreciate that. It's just been so much fun keeping up with you and your career trajectory as it continues to go up. And we know it's a special place down there at Lamar. So for them to, for you to leave that spot to go to Westwood, you must have seen something great there. So they're going to find out quickly what they have in you as a coach. So we really do appreciate that. And that research, man, we appreciate the food recommendations. That's very important stuff. So thanks again.
Coach. Hey, anytime. Like I said, I'm a fan. You guys have been going and doing a good job for the last few years. So I don't care what coaches say, they listen. Everybody listens. So keep doing a good job and turning out good stuff. And if I can ever be a help, please call me.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you, as always, for hopping on with us. Look forward to stopping by, practice our game, getting to see you soon, and best of luck, all right?
Appreciate it.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin The Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday Night Spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com today.